Hello, everyone. This is Joseph Cephas. I'm the VP of Communications. I've been overseeing the website project. It's been an exciting 5.5 months, really 5 months. As I mentioned when we first introduced this project at the Chapter Leadership Conference in July, we were really slamming what should have been 9 to 10 month project into 5.5 months. And I'm happy to report that we are right on schedule to the hour. We're right on schedule. Last time I was on, I mentioned that we were in the design phase. We completed that phase. We are now in content migration, which is a very exciting place to be. We are grabbing all of the information from all of the chapter sites and migrating them over to the new site. This is a very time-consuming process, but so far it has been very successful. You should have just received an email from Jessica. It has your login information and access to the beta version of the websites. Those sites are not live. One of the things that you could still put in the first email, it has the two initials from your chapter site, and then just you have to put a dot in between that and ASID to access your chapter site. The first link is going directly to what the public version of the beta site is. Really not public, but it's what people would see if it was a public site. And the second one is to the 24-watch system. The bulk of this call will be focused on the 24-watch system, which is our content management system. We will take you through complete training on how to navigate the back end of the website, how to make simple updates and everything. I will say that for anybody who will be managing the site, if you will be hands-on making the weekly or daily changes to the website, what we want to do is have a follow-up webinar next week. That will be next Thursday. That will go really into detail on how to do complex changes. Today you'll learn how to do text updates, update awards, add photos, things like that. But there are a lot of features that are in 24-watch as far as making huge photo galleries, putting in different types of content regions with various colors and background images that is more complex than what we need to get into for this call. So we will have another webinar next week for just that individual, for one representative from each chapter. Prior to getting into 24-watch and going to training, I do want to give a quick update on the Find a Designer function, which we are now calling Find a Pro. What we have up on the screen now is just a mock-up. It's still in draft format. Some of the things that you see at the top that are going to be changed are some of the terminology of types of projects and things like that that we're going to still update. This will actually launch about a month after the full website, and we're giving that time because we have to migrate all of the database entry, and we have to do that one-on-one. We have to take one record and pull it over. But we're beginning that process now, and we have to finalize the design. So this will launch about a month after the main website, and that will give us the time to really focus on the design of it. But in that month's time, we will be sure that everybody who has purchased an enhanced profile gets compensated for that 1 month lost time. We haven't decided exactly how we're going to do that, whether it's going to add another month on to the end of their current contract, give them a refund for that month, or give them access to a resource that has a similar cost. We're still working through that. One of the big changes is that Find a Pro will now be in one central location. It will, instead of there will be a link on every site. You'll see that when we get into chapter sites, and it will be on every single page in every navigation bar, whether you're on the headquarters site or any of the chapter sites. It will automatically go to this page. But it will be in one central location for the continuity of brand and to help us with SEO. Right now we're being pulled in 48 different directions with our search engine optimization. So in order to centralize that, we're going to put in one location, just link from all the sites. As you see on the page that we try to use as complicated names as possible with a lot of appellations, like many of our members do, as a test, just so you can see that will still look good. And then as you click on that, you will go to a perma page that then has a little bit more information. It has a description, types of projects. It has a really clean photo gallery, and just a big upgrade compared to what we currently have. So we're working on that now. I don't want to spend too much time on it just because we do have to get through so much as far as 24 Watch. Big part of it that I do want to mention is that while we are changing the layout, we're still going in being in one central location. If a member purchases an upgraded profile, that money will still be distributed to the chapters, just like it was before. And we are aiming, and the goal of this is for you to get the same amount of money that you have when we have a partnership with DSA or more. That is our goal. So whether that means giving the majority of the funds to the chapter, we're still figuring out the financial side. The good thing is that it will all be tied to Associations Anywhere, our current database. So rather than members having to log into 2 different databases to update their information, if they want to update their address or renew their membership, that will be the exact same place that they update their profile here. So that's a huge win as well. So I just wanted to go quickly through that. And as I mentioned, we'll have something on all of our sites to say that on all of the pages to ensure that everybody knows that this is just a temporary pause on the Find a Pro feature, and that it will be back up a month after launch with a much cleaner look. And before we get into anything else, I just want to introduce Catherine. She is with the Orasys team, who's our web developers. She's been our primary project manager and has been walking us through this freakishly fast pace that we've been going in this project, and she will walk you through all of the training. We are going to use Wisconsin as the test site because we've made a lot of updates to it. The one thing that I will say, even though you have all of your logins for 24 Watch, we gave that to you, so in case you wanted to follow along, you can follow along. The one thing I will say, please do not make changes in the back end of your chapter sites. You can make simple changes, just don't hit save on any change just because we are still migrating information. We will send you'll get an email from either myself or Rebecca Sparenberg on our staff when your individual chapter can go in and make changes, because that means all your information from your old site has been migrated. We'll start making those emails. We'll start sending them out as soon as we get off this call for chapters that can just go into the back end, and then it will kind of be on a loop as we finish chapters. We'll immediately let you know that you can go in and start making updates and changes, but we wanted to give you a starting point and have as much of your content over as possible. So without further ado, I'm going to turn over to Kat. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for the introduction, Joseph. I'm going to go ahead and get started on giving you guys an introduction into your new website and the tool which Joseph has been referencing called 24 Watch. It is a content management system that we have built to allow you to easily update the content that's on your site. We pride ourselves on it being very intuitive and user-friendly, so we're really excited for you guys to be able to get in there and start being able to manage the content that is on these websites and see all of the great new flexibility and tools that we've built for you to kind of handle the content. I'm going to start with your ability to log into the back end of the website. When I say back end, I mean by that's the content management system where you're entering your username and password, you're logging in, and you're able to edit and control the content that's displaying on the front end of the website. The front end of your website is what is showing to the public-facing users. So that, as you can see up here on the screen, is the front end portion of your website. To log in to the back end of the website, you enter the URL of your site, which is the first 2 initials or multiple initials of your state or your chapter's acronym, followed by currently what the beta URL is for the website. So that's asid.beta.orasys.com.
And this is just for the beta version. Whenever we go to live, this will correspond with your email address.
So for Wisconsin, for example, their new chapter URL will be wi.asid.org. Excuse me. And then you put a /admin on the end. When you come in here, you then enter your chapter username. So everyone should have received their username credentials. I am going to log in on behalf of Wisconsin. So it'll be WI-admin as their username. And right now the password is set up as, was that shared with everyone?
Yes.
Okay. We are ASID. So I'm going to log in. And that's going to take me into what we call the dashboard screen. So I'm just going to take a minute to kind of get you guys familiar with some of the terminology that I'm going to be using throughout this webinar. This is the dashboard here. So on the left-hand side, you have what we call your module navigation. So each of the functionality within your website is controlled by different modules, and each of those modules serve a different purpose. They allow you to easily control the content that is on, for example, those awards pages. And by having it as a module, we've made it much easier for you to add that content to your site and have it display in a beautiful fashion on the front end of the site. And we'll get into more details into the awards module a little bit later. As you're in here, you can see you have some help contact if you need help. There's going to be a contact person for you to reach out to. And as you're going around the site, if you ever wanted to see what the front end of your website looked like, you can click up here in the top left-hand corner. And if you click that, it's going to go ahead and open up the front end of your website in a new tab. So you can constantly have the two open. It's very useful when you're adding content to be adding your content in the back end and then looking at the changes that you've made on the front end to make sure everything's correlating across the way that you intended it to. If you want to log out, in the upper right-hand corner, you have this button, and when you click it, you have the ability to either lock your screen or log out as your user. You will automatically be logged out if your system has been idle for more than 25 minutes. You will get logged out of the system. So it's good just to keep yourself fresh. Don't leave a content page unsaved. Come back to it 3 hours later because your changes, you would have been locked out and your changes may have been lost. So it's always good to keep yourself fresh, be saving as you're going so that you don't lose any content along the way. The very first thing that I would like everyone to do once they get logged in is to update their password. And this is really important so that you can have a unique password for your account and you know that it's secure and safe for you. If you scroll down the page to the very bottom left, you'll see something that's called Manage 24 Watch. When you click that, it will open up the ability to edit my profile. And when you edit your profile, and here you'll see it's the ability, it shows you what your username is. What we currently have the first and last name set up as, the email, and then you have the ability to enter your current password and then update your password with a new password and then confirm it. So you have the ability to have a unique password. There are currently no parameters on that password. It can be whatever is unique for you. We always recommend having uppercase and numerical numbers just to keep it safe. My password is not always the best password, but just make sure it's something that's personal to you that you can remember and that is safe and secure. You'll click Save when you're finished, and that will automatically update your password for you at the bottom. You'll find that throughout the site, your Save button is always down here in that bottom right-hand corner. Everything kind of tries to follow a similar flow. So once you get the hang of something in one place, you'll easily find when you go somewhere else, it's following that same unique pattern. All right. So now that you've gotten your password updated, we're going to kind of dig into actually managing and editing the content on the site. I'm going to flip over to the front end of your website and just kind of start explaining some of the terminology that we're going to be using that correlates to the functionality that's in the back end of the site. At the top of your site here, you'll see you have what we call a header. The header includes the logo, the name of your chapter, social media icons, and then your navigation bar. As Joseph had mentioned earlier, this Find a Pro link is across every single page of your website. That Find a Pro link in your navigation is consistent on all of the pages of your site. So everything will be congruent across the site, and this is how the users on your site will navigate between the pages. The navigation across the site on a first tier level, so what you're seeing here is what we call the first level of navigation, and that is consistent across all chapter websites. So all of the chapter websites will have the same first level of navigation, and then you will have the ability to edit the navigation, what pages show up below that. As you scroll down, the next thing that you're seeing are these big, beautiful sliders. These are what we call sliders or carousels in the tech world, and it gives you the ability to add images, add text, and add links. They can go to any content that you want to. So if you have a really great event going on that you want to tell your users about and your members about that are viewing your site and make sure that they're getting registered, you can edit that slider to pull people to that event and add that registration. Right now we've set you up with two sliders to get you started. You're allowed to edit and change those sliders, and we'll go into how you're changing that in just a second, but it at least gives you the ability to have some content in there as a good template and starting point if you don't have any sliders right away that you're thinking that you're going to put on the site. As we scroll down, you'll see the page goes into events feed, which is pulling the events from both the chapter sites, and then some of the national events as well are getting pushed down to your chapter site, so you're getting that content from national and headquarters, and they're helping pull that content down for you. You also have this Find a Pro content, content block, which will take you over to the new Find a Pro functionality when that is built. The Chapter Sponsors is a new tool that allows you to add all of your different sponsors that you have. Each site has a lot of different sponsors, so you can have a logo and a link to take you out to that sponsor, and we'll go through that one too in just a second. So then you've got some other content blocks on the site. You have a news feed at the bottom, and then the footer of the site. So that's all well and great, looks beautiful, but let's talk about how to edit that content. So let's go ahead and get started with the very first thing, which is your site navigation. That was what was at the top of the site. Your site navigation is the ability to edit the pages that show up underneath each of those main levels. So you can see Wisconsin is currently set up with different pages that are underneath each of the about, events, news, resources, chapter sponsorship, get involved, and join pages. The pages that are falling underneath are based on the content that was currently built on your site. When the content was migrated over, the headquarters team has been making the decision about putting it in different places. It's definitely something that you'll be able to move around if you feel like it should fall under somewhere else. But they've been trying to help create a more congruent structure to the navigation so that if a user is viewing the Wisconsin site and they may be viewing the California Orange County chapter website, that they're getting the same sort of interaction and feel across the board, and that they're able to find that content on your site just as easily as they would on another site, and also on the main ASID headquarters website. So if you want to add a new page underneath each of these navigation items, once you have the content built within your site, so you've added that content page, you've added that form, you've added all the different content that you may put into your navigation, one of the things that you'll do is you'll add those pages into your navigation. So if you wanted to add a page that was under About, you would click this Add button that's showing up right here on the right. So I would click the Add button. And then when I'm under here, you'll see I have the ability to add dynamic items or the ability to add custom navigation items. The dynamic items are anything that has currently been added under one of the modules that you can see in the left-hand side. So Pages is probably the #1 place that you're going to be adding content from. So if you wanted to add one of these content pages, I would go ahead and let's say I want to add board meeting minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and click board meeting minutes. And when I click that, you can see it highlights the entire section. You can clearly see that board meeting minutes is selected. As I scroll down to the bottom of the page, I have this option that's called link text. While the page title may be called board meeting minutes, I may not want to call that page the board meeting minutes in the navigation. So maybe when I'm hovering here, I would like the board meeting minutes to show up as just meeting minutes instead of board meeting minutes. So you don't have to change your page title to change what's showing up in the navigation and that link text what's showing up to your users. So you can go ahead and overwrite that link text here if you want to. So I could type in meeting minutes right in here. When I click Save, again, bottom right-hand corner to click Save, I go ahead and I click Save, and you can see it's automatically added the meeting minutes for me. It's right up here at the top. These 3 lines on the left, if I click this and hold it, you can now see that it's kind of moving around here. This is drag and drop functionality. So if I want this to show up underneath 2017 board candidates but above chapter strategic plan, I'm going to drop it in right there. If I want to make it, currently it's set up as, we talked about the first level of navigation. I currently have meeting minutes as a second level of navigation, but there's a third level of navigation. So perhaps meeting minutes should go under 2017 board candidates. Again, I'm going to click it, hold it, drag it over, and now you can see it's clearly indented, and what's that showing you is that it's underneath 2017 board candidates. So if I want to look at the change that I made, I'm going to come over into the front end of the website. I'm going to refresh because I do need to pull in that new content that I just built. Roll over about, and I'm going to see that I have 2017 board candidates and then meeting minutes, which is just right over here on the right because I added that as a third level. Maybe I didn't mean to add that as a third level, so I can come in, move it over, give it a refresh, and then you can see the content is right back here under meeting minutes. So it's very easy and intuitive to add your pages onto your site, to be able to change that navigation structure so that if you're adding new pages, you can come in and add those pages. As you're in here, if you added a page that should only be up for a little bit of time, so you want to take that out of your navigation, you can use this delete button to remove that page from your navigation. It does not delete the content page. It is only deleting the page from your navigation tree. One thing you can see up here at the top as well is this warning. The board meeting minutes page that I just added in was already a page that was on the navigation. So while we do allow you to add a page twice, we don't recommend it. It's not good practice for SEO to have multiple pages in your navigation tree that are the same. So we always recommend find one home for something that makes the most sense and keep it there. But sometimes there's just those situations that you may need it in 2 places, so you do have that flexibility. I'm going to go ahead and delete this. You'll see that you get a pop-up that says, one, if there's anything underneath this, it will also get deleted. So just basically a general warning, are you sure? If you delete something, there's no undo, there's no backup. So we always want to make sure, if you're really sure you want to delete, go in and click that delete button. The edit button that you're seeing in the middle is just the same thing as that add button, but the edit button is only visible for something that you've already added. So you can click edit, and you're going back into where you are, so you can change that page instead of adding a new one. So that's the site navigation. Next thing that was there was the slider. Your slider is those beautiful images that are on the page that have that title and description. When you're adding a new slider, there's 2 ways that you can do that. In the upper right-hand corner, there's a plus button that allows you to add a new slide. And in the bottom left, you can see underneath Browse Slides, there's also an Add Slide button. There's always that double cross, so you can add in the left, or if you ever fails, there's always the plus in the top right. When you're editing or adding a new slide, you insert your image. We will provide the specs for you for the correct size for an image. So we'll give you some best practices for those images, how to be saving those images so that they're web safe, that you're not uploading really large pictures that are going to be very slow on mobile devices to load. You then just plain text. So you add in the text, you add in the title, subtitle that you want to display beneath it. You have the Learn More, which is the button text. So when we say button text, you can see here that we have this Learn More link. You don't have to know the HTML to make that a link and carry everything over. All you have to tell us is, what do you want that text to say? So for here, it may be Learn More. For the other slide, it's Get Involved. It could be Register Today, whatever makes sense to the content that you have on that slide. And then you have the button link. So you have the /join. So whenever you are adding URLs on your website that are URLs that you're pointing someone to content that's on your site. So a different page that's on the Wisconsin chapter site, whatever your chapter may be, you start with everything that comes after the .com in this case, or in the future the .org. So you would start with /join. And you don't want to put the full URL in, because right now if you were to add the full URL, it's going to keep it in there as asid.beta.orsis.com. And when we go live, we don't want it to take you to asid.beta.orsis.com. We want it to take you to asid.org. So it's just good to start everything after that .com or .org if it's an internal page. Very different if you're pointing to something that's external. So if you're pointing to the ASID headquarters site, you would put the full URL in.
And this is DJ, just as a reminder, the best practice is when you have someone on your website, you want them to stay on your website. So in most cases, and you'll even notice this on the headquarters site, we don't place a lot of links to external content. The only cases where we're doing that are, say, I know a number of you are hosting where you submit for your awards programs on external sites. So of course that would make sense if you're linking to a submit now, and you need to include that link going to an external site, you would include that. But in general, if there's an organization that you're partnering with, you'll notice this even on our website, depending on your level of partnership, sometimes we may link to go to that outside partnership, but that's more rare. That should be the exception rather than the rule. What you really want to do is be trying to do things that hopefully engage people and keep them on your site.
Thanks, CJ. So now I'm going to click on Browse Slides. So once you get the slides in there, you can see that you're in this Browse page. And you can see there's still, if you remember from the last module of the site navigation, that there's this left-hand 3 bars. This is, again, drag and drop. So you may want the Get Involved slide to be first and the Join ASID to be second. You can drag and drop those to change the order, come into your site, refresh, and then you'll see it switched it. So the very first one is your Get Involved, and then it goes into the Join Today. So you can change those order of the items. You also have that delete button as well. I recommend probably not using the delete button in most cases with your sliders. Use the active inactive button that's at the bottom. Active means it's live, it's showing up on the front end of your site. If you uncheck that box, it just means it's inactive. So that means that you can't be seen by the public, but you can come back to it later. So especially for these two that we've gone ahead and got you guys set up on, they're great slides that you can fall back on if you need some content on your site in a couple of months. Maybe you don't want to launch with them right away, but you do want to have them in May or June or even next year. Just make those inactive, and that way you can have them to fall back on. All you have to do is come in, check that active box, and they show up again on the front end of your site.
And this is Joseph here again. The thing with these two that we have now, we have actually pushed these to all chapter sites. You can still make them active and inactive, but there's other things that will be available that will be nationwide that we can push from headquarters down to all sites. It won't happen very frequently, but there's sometimes we can. But you'll still have access to those images and be able to use those anytime you would like. And you can make them inactive if you want, or you could keep them as active. But just keep that in mind too, because I know sometimes you might be in a little lull, a little period where there's not much going on. But this is a great feature, as you mentioned, that active and inactive. If you have an awards program that you have every year, you have it on a similar date, and you have it, and then it passes, the event passes, the date of it, just hit inactive, but it will still be there. So the following year, when you want to promote it on your slider, all you have to do is update the graphic with the new year, and all the rest of the content will already be there.
Great. So now we're going to move into content blocks and settings. So this is one of the other places on your site that you can edit the rest of the content that's showing up on that front kind of home page, what your site first is looking like when people are coming to your website. So the first thing that you have is the theme settings. So when you come in, you may be looking at the link that we sent you for your chapter, and you're saying, wow, my header is a different color than Wisconsin's. Why is Wisconsin showing as gray and mine showing as purple or blue? Why is mine different? And the reason for that, and I think Joseph had showed this to you when we were doing the design portion of the site, is that we have created 4 styles for the header and footer of the website that you have the ability to edit whichever one feels most fitting for your chapter. So there's blue, there's the purple, there's the change from blue to purple, and then there's the gray. We have just randomly selected who has which styles to start with. You're more than welcome to go in. You're going to go to content blocks and settings, theme settings, and then you're going to edit your setting, and you're going to say, I don't want to be style 4 anymore. I want to be style 2 or 3 or 1. And this is something that you don't have to pick today. You can be gray today, and in a year you might change to be blue or purple. So you have the ability to kind of change that style of that header and footer. It gives the chapter sites across all 47 the ability to be a little bit unique, a little bit different, so they're not all going to this exact same color palette that's there across all 48. Again, the Save button's bottom right-hand corner. You select the new style and click Save if you want to make a change. On the home page, if you go to Content Blocks and Settings and Browse Site Blocks, you'll see that there are 3 content blocks that are on the home page of the site that aren't pages. They're just little pieces of content that you have the ability to edit and make unique to your chapter. We have also gone ahead and set up the chapters. Some of the chapters have been set up with some content that would fill from their specific website, and some of them have been pre-filled with some just general content as well. So you can see you have a block in the upper right-hand corner, or right below the Find a Pro and chapter sponsors. You've got this, what we are calling Call Out 1 gray box. So this is a perfect place to add some about text about your chapter, or a specific call out to a sponsor, or whatever your chapter is really pushing right now. This is a great text area that you can add the content to. When you're in the back end, it's called Call Out number 1, gray background, and you click Edit the Content block. You'll come in here and you'll see you're coming into what we call a WYSIWYG. I'm going to, a little bit later on, get into all of the functionality of what all of these buttons are. Don't be overwhelmed yet. They're very, very simple once you get the hang of it. So you have the ability to add all sorts of content in here. You can add images. You can add all sorts of different things to be able to make this content very unique to you and your chapter. So this is the first place that you can add that content. The next place that you can add content is down here, what we're calling content block number 2, which is an image block. For the Wisconsin site, on their homepage, they had a video call out. So this was a perfect place to add some video and add a description. It doesn't have to be an image. But when you're using that content blocks and settings, it's Browse Site Blocks, call out to image call out left, and you can edit that block. And you'll see you've got this iframe, which is the YouTube video getting pulled in, and then you've got the text below it. So lots of different text that you can kind of pull in, just kind of showing the diversity of content that you can pull in. We'll get into more how you're inserting some of those videos and advanced items and the call next week. Today we're going to focus more on simple text and pictures.
And right now for the Wisconsin site, as Kat mentioned, we pulled some content from their site, but everybody right now has content in all of those blocks. Mm-hmm. If you did not have something on your site, or we have not migrated all your information yet, we put in some holder text that is just very basic, either become a sponsor or a little bit about ASID on the home page. So everybody has that content now, but if it's something you want to change it, after we give you the okay to start changing your site, you could go in and edit those blocks.
Mm-hmm. And then the third block is right here on the right. It's the same thing, same edit content block. It's just called the white background because sky white background. You can add your content in here as well. It's a great place for text, pictures. So you have a lot of different options about the content that you're putting into that homepage. So those are how you edit the homepage blocks. The last thing that you can edit on the homepage, I'm just going to jump real quick from the content blocks and setting module down here to the second to last, which is social media. You can see in the header of your website there are social media icons. We have set up everyone with Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and Twitter. However, if some of you, while we were migrating content, had a call out on your site to Houzed or LinkedIn, we also took care of getting that set up for you. If you have other ones than those 4 that you want to set up and you need assistance, that's definitely something we can help you with. When you click Browse Social Networks, you'll see you have the 4 items in there. For some of you, if you did not have a Facebook or a Twitter account, we just made it inactive so you can always come back to it later if you do end up adding a Twitter account. When you click Edit next to Twitter, you'll see we have it set up with an icon pre-populated for you. The name is just the back end so you can know it's Twitter. And then some of you have URLs in there and some of them are in as just pound size as placeholders as we've been adding the content in. So for Wisconsin, if they had a URL, a Twitter account, this is where we would come in and we would add that Twitter account for you. If you didn't have one right away and you added one in a year, you could come back in and add that Twitter account in there at that point in time. So the social media is just the ability to change those icons that are showing up on that front end of the site. You can add a new one. The ad screen looks just like that, the initial screen, so you can see everything right in there. So that's the home page of your website. It's a big bulk of your content that's on that home page. Lots of different smaller places that you can add the content. The rest of the content is controlled by the other modules. The first one to get into is talking about the main level pages. So you have the About page. This About page has 2 places for content. One of the places for content is a place where the content is being pushed down from the ASID headquarters to the chapters. So what ASID headquarters has done is instead of you guys all having to keep updated boilerplate information about ASID on your site that you then have to go in and manage, what we've built is the ability for them to just add that content and push it for you, and then you can add additional content onto that page. ASID is kind of set on their end whether or not their content shows above your content or below your content. And that's just a decision that the headquarters team is making on their end. But when you're coming in for the About page, the Resources page, the chapter sponsorship, the Get Involved, or the Join, those main level pages, if you want to edit that content, it's under Content Blocks and Setting, Browse Navigation Blocks, and then you can add a content block. So for example, you could see for Wisconsin that there wasn't anything under that About page. But if I wanted to add a content block for Wisconsin, and let's say I wanted to use the About content that was on the home page, I'm going to copy the text that's right here. I'm going to go over. I'm going to add. I'm going to skip a header. The header is optional. What the header looks like is you'll see under About, you'll see that the About the American Society of Interior Designs has a header. But since your content's going right down above under About, it doesn't really make sense to add a second header. So I'm going to leave that blank since it's an optional field, and you'll see it says optional here. Optional means you don't have to add it. Required is to say you're going to have to add content. I'm going to paste the content in and click Save. So since I've added that content in, I'm going to come in here, I'm going to refresh, and you can see that the content was added. So that gives you the ability to have your unique content about your chapter here, and then the ASID headquarters adds their content as well. So that's the same thing for the Resources page, chapter sponsorship, Get Involved, and Join.
And one thing just to start, so we have been focusing on the headquarters staff. We have been migrating all the chapters right now, and that has been our primary focus. We have not even started on migrating the content for the headquarters side yet, because we want to make sure all the chapters are up and running first. So that content right now that's pushed down, some of it's very lengthy. It is just filler. We will go in and we will update it, and you'll see it change over the next few days. But right now it's just filler. So don't get too worried or say, hey, there might be a misspelling in here. Some of it we actually just put in some token Latin text. So don't be too worried about that. That will all be updated prior to launch.
Okay. So let's move into the pages and the pages module where you are adding the bulk of your content. A page on your website is could be anything from meeting minutes to adding documents to having pictures. There's a lot of different places for some other items, but the pages module is really your kind of catch-all for it doesn't fit in another module, but I need to add this content to my site. So what I did was I clicked pages and browse pages, and it took me to this place here. You can see at the top of the page you have the settings and the ability, the filters to be able to search for content on your site, either a page or the URL if you can't find it. It just allows you to filter through this content a little bit faster. And then you'll see on this browse page, you can see that the URL is highlighted. I can click that URL and it's going to open the page for me in a new window so I can see exactly what does that for meeting minutes page look like. And you can see it's got lots of content on here that's been moved over from the main site. I come back in, you can see what the header of that site is. We do keep a log on the site, so who it was created by, who it was modified by, when the last time it was modified. There is a history button. When you click the history button, it gives you the ability to view the past versions of that page, and you can actually even revert back to a prior page. So let's say you make a change and it wasn't right and it caused an issue and you want to go back to how it was. You can click that revert button and it's going to take you back to that prior version. So the content pages is a versioned history of that module. It's actually one of the only places on your site where you do have that revision history, but it's just such a bulk place of your site where you're adding a lot of content, making a lot of changes. So we have that functionality in place for you. The edit button is where you're going to be going to actually edit the content. But before I get there, let's talk about adding a new page. When you click that plus button to add a new page, you're going to be taken to a small window first. This is where you set what the URL and header of the website is going to be. URLs, this is the same as we're talking about. You don't add the domain name, so the www.asid.beta.orsis.com. You start with everything after the .org or .com. So if I'm going to add a new page, I might do / let's say test content. And what I'm going to be doing here, you can see it's all lowercase letters. I'm separating words with hyphens. I may be separating them with dashes as well if it's a second level. So I'm test content 2, so that you can kind of have some different parameters of how you're setting up the URL. So it's most important though, make sure that it's all lowercase, no spaces, and that everything is lower. It actually won't even let you click save if you do have a space or you do have something that's not correct. We do have some validation in there just as a fallback for you guys to make sure that you can't, it's hard to remember all the different specifics. The header is what shows up on that page title for the user on the front end. So the page title on this page for about is the about. Let's see if we look at the one of the other pages, the chapter strategic plan. You can see the page title is chapter strategic plan. So that's what's going to show up to the user in that text. So we can add test content in here. And then you're going to click continue button in the bottom left.
And this is a significant upgrade here because if you remember on the current sites that we have, and if you work with any other site as well, you when you create a page, you might get a page that has asid.org/join 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 exclamation point. So just like, and when you go to copy that into an email or something like that, it's just really long. Here, if you just, or join page, it's just asid.org/join. Or and if you create something new, it's just / and then you can keep it very basic.
So I'm going to click continue. You're going to see that the first thing that it takes you into is the content builder. We are not going to spend more than the next 30-second breath on the content builder today. This is the advanced functionality that Joseph was talking about. What the content builder allows you to do is to create different pockets of content on a page so that you can have a content page that may pull a photo gallery in and may pull in a list styling or may pull in a picture gallery, a picture here and text here and a pull quote lower. So there's a lot of really great functionality that we've built for you. We just don't have time to get into all of it today. So what we're going to move over to is the WYSIWYG functionality. And the WYSIWYG functionality in here is basically like using Word. If you can edit a document in Word, you're going to be the most proficient person over here in using 24 Watch and any of the content. It's not that scary. It's not HTML. You're able to make a lot of great changes without knowing any web technology or lingo or anything like that. So what you're going to do, I'm going to paste in some content here that I had saved up that we had copied over from the home page. If you do know more HTML, you can click that source button, and that's going to take you over to showing what the HTML version of your page looks like. If that's scary to you, you don't ever have to push that button. Don't worry about it. But if you do know some advanced, there's a lot of great things that you can do using that source tool. So it's there if you need it. It's not through the webinar. If you roll over each of these buttons, there is a little tag that's showing up. There you go, perfect. That's showing you actually what this button means. So if you ever forget, oh gosh, what did that one mean? You don't have to click it to find out. Just roll over it. You'll see what it says. You'll see that it says, oh, that one's paste. That's perfect. So just standard, you've got your cut, you have your copy, you have your paste. And then these next two are actually really important. They're the paste as plain text and the paste from Word. If you're moving content into your site, maybe from a Word document, you're not going to want to just copy that content directly into this area because sometimes there's some styling on it that just doesn't compat well with web compatibility and web styling. So if you click the paste from Word button, you'll see this little pop-up comes up, and then I can actually just copy it in here, and you can see it's got some weird stuff going on. There's some background colors, what's getting pulled in, and I can click OK, and it pulls all of that out and copies it in for me. So it's a great tool to use. We highly recommend it. If you don't use that paste from Word tool, sometimes there can be some odd styling that goes on your page, so really great to start with that. Next to that, you have an undo button and a redo button, so you can move backwards and forwards. You have a find button, so you can find a word, same thing as in Word and other Microsoft products. You can find, you can match whole case, or match whole word and match the case. You can find and replace, so find this word, replace with this word. Just a great tool to make it easy for some of those longer content pages to edit the content that's showing up on your site. So again, that's the find here and find and replace here. This is just a select all instead of having to use your keyboard or scroll to highlight everything. Quick select all tool. The next tool is the spell checker. The spell checker is not automatically turned on the site. If you have a spell checker through your browser, which most browsers have a spell checker turned on, then you have your spell checker automatically pulling through into your page. However, if maybe you're not sure if there is, or you're just not sure, you can enable the spell checker to check the spelling and make sure that everything's okay. So this tool is here for you too if you need that. And look, it's not recognizing ASID as a word. We might have to talk to the dictionary about that one. So that's how the spell checker works. Moving over, these ones look very familiar, I'm sure, to you. We've got bold, italicized, underline, strike through, subscript, and superscript. So moving that text down, moving it up. This button's really great. So let's say we highlighted the text, we made it bold, italicized, under, strike through. We did everything to it. It's just, wow, there's a lot of styling on that. If instead of having to unclick all of these buttons, I'm just going to use this last button here, and that's the formatting removed button. So it will undo and remove all formatting that was on there and just take it back to plain text.
That's a good tool to also use if you're cutting and pasting text from another document or some other kind of digital format, just to clear everything out in case that some formatting from what you're taking from ends up cutting into the formatting of your site.
The next tool on the second line here, you'll see you have the numbered lists, so you can add numbered lists, and you can outdent and indent those lists. You can have bullets. You can add a pull quote, so it can style it to look like a quote. It's going to be much larger, kind of have that quotations around it for you. There's this button here that's called div. I'm going to recommend that you all don't use the div button unless you have a proficiency in HTML. We can talk about that one a little bit more in our next advanced styling, but for most of you, skipping over the div button is just fine. You can left justify, center, right justify, or full justify your text. And here's one that I think a lot of you will be using, and this is the hyperlink button. So let's say you want to add some text to your site that says, click here. Or let's actually say learn more, because it's a little bit more user-friendly than click here. So we'll click learn more. You're going to actually use this link text that you see right here, and you click link. This is where you can enter the URL that you're sending the page to. So if it's internal, it's going to be join. If it was an external page, maybe it's going over to your registration and you're taking them to that third-party tool that you're using to process your registrations, you're going to enter in your third-party link. And then you're going to click on this target button, and you can see the target. You're going to set it to open in a new window, blank, and what that means is that they're going to stay on your site. They're going to keep your site in the tab, but it's going to open the next one in a new tab so that they can have both. Always recommend that when you're taking people off of your site, that you still keep them on your site when you can, because you want them to be able to come back, because hopefully they went out and they come back and continue to engage in your website. So then you can see if I click OK, my link was added. You can see it's added because it's blue and underlined. And then if I now have this link, my cursor within this link, and I change my mind, I don't want to add this link anymore, I want to remove it. How do I remove that link? You click this unlink button, and it goes ahead and it removes the link. The next thing on the page is anchor links. So an anchor link allows you to kind of create an on-page link that you can scroll down to. You would go ahead and you would click the link button. You would enter that you want this to be a learn more. Learn more would be the link name. So you click the learn more, and you can see I add my anchor link in there. And then in some other content, you can add a link here, URL type, link to anchor in the text. And you can see my learn more is right there. So you can go in and add your anchor link throughout the site. So especially for those pages, I know a lot of you have some really long pages with some great content on it and have used anchor links in the past. It's an easy tool that you guys can use to add in here. Rank that link there. Here's the next one that's probably one of the most important ones you're going to use, the insert button. So the insert button, this allows you to add PDFs. It allows you to add PowerPoints, images, videos. This tool is what allows you to upload everything into the site. So when you click on, and you can either browse some existing images or files that have already been added onto your specific site, or you can drag and drop an image in to upload that one, or click to browse your specific desktop and add in different pictures and content, different blocks of content. When you click on a PDF, when you insert that PDF, you'll see that there are two options. You can download it or render. Download means that when the user clicks your link, it automatically downloads to their computer and they have that saved in their downloads. Render means that it opens that PDF in a new tab and displays the PDF to the user, but it doesn't automatically save it. So this is something that's important to note when you're giving them something like an application that they're going to have to already download and save. It's probably better to just click download so that they have that on their system. They can open it and start editing it. If you're displaying more of a PDF about an event that you want to show, that might be better to open in a new tab because the user may or may not want to download that actually to their device. When you click download the text, you can add in whatever you want that text to say. PDF will kind of learn more here, and click OK, and it's going to insert that learn more link for you, and that PDF is attached already in there in that link.
Quick question coming in about the anchor link. Someone had noticed that when you were typing in the words for the anchor link, you removed all the spaces.
I did, yes.
So is that important for people to do?
Yes, thank you. Yes, it is. Same thing with any URL on your site or link on your site. HTML just doesn't allow there to be spaces, so it should all be one word when you're adding in those anchor links. Great question.
And one thing that I'll add, I know we're getting close on time, we're getting close to 4 o'clock, but there are still some very important things that we have to go through, mainly the board of directors, because that's a simple module, the awards. There's a few things that we still have to go over, so if you could just stay on, even if you have one person from your chapter, to make sure that you stay on, because those are very important sections that we still have to go through.
All right. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to add one more image just so we can see how we're overriding an image. You're going to add that image in. Let's say we have one of the sliders, one of the images that was on a content page for Wisconsin. You can see my image. I'm going to click that image and highlight it, and then I'm going to click this little image properties tab that's just to the left of the insert button. What this image tab does is it allows you to either make it left aligned or right aligned, and it also gives you the ability, so that means it's wrapping it in your text. So instead of just having your image kind of like Word, you know how you wrap the text around your picture, or you just have your picture as a standalone. You can have it left or right, and then you have horizontal or vertical space. And what the horizontal space and the vertical space is that is just content that that's just adding a little bit of spacing in between your picture and where the text is starting. So I would recommend usually always adding at least 10, and these are measured in pixels of horizontal and vertical space just to give your image a nice clean margin around it. There's also a border, again measured in pixels, so you can add a fine line or border, maybe a really thick border around your picture. Just some simple formatting that you can do on here to make your picture look a little bit cleaner kind of on the site. And then you click OK, and it automatically does that styling for you. And now let's see if I move my picture up to be within the text. You can see that it is going to be wrapping around it. And one thing to say, this tool is called a WYSIWYG editor, and what that stands for is what you see is what you get. It's a very standard web tool, but what you see in this window isn't exactly how it's going to look like in the window on the actual site. And that's because you're looking at everything in standard plain text. None of the styling that the developers have built to what that text looks like or how that formatting looks is implemented here. That's all implemented on the front end of your website. So what that brings me into, so you've added your pictures, you've added your text, you've got links, you've got anchor links.
Can you just show them real quick how to resize the image and show them how to lock it so it doesn't?
Oh, yeah, sure. And in this back end, this image properties tool, you can see there's the 624 by 297. So that's telling you what your image size is. We always recommend, if you can, importing your image at the size that you're going to be using it on the website, because that's just a very, it allows your page to automatically load the website. It makes it faster. Your image doesn't have to get resized. But if maybe you need it to be just a little bit smaller, a little bit larger, you can go ahead and you can say, let's change this to 300. And you can see that it automatically reduced the height for you because this lock button is set. The lock button is automatically going to allow it so your image doesn't get skewed. If you unlock this button, I could change this to be 600, and I didn't alter the height, so my image is going to be really wide and not any taller, and so it's going to look skewed. So
never click that button, most importantly.
Not recommended. There's not very many cases that you would need to use that button, so always keep them locked, and that'll allow you to be able to resize that picture to whatever you need to if it's just a little bit up or down. All right. Another tool that you have in here is called Tables. It allows you to add tables to your website. It is not something that we recommend. We do give you the functionality to add a table to your site to add content. There are a lot of better ways to add content than tables on the website. Your new websites are responsive, and tables are not easily responsive. The content just does not break down well to mobile devices. So we always recommend, if you really need to use a table, it may be something to reach out to the headquarters to say, I really want to add a table to my site. You know, how can we make this happen? And they can probably help you come up with a better way to add that content onto your site than a table. Or if we do need to add a table, we can make sure it's done in the correct fashion. So that's what that button means. Probably not a place that you're going to be using too much. This tool right next to it is to add a horizontal hairline that separates your content in, so you can see it kind of separates it in. You'll see that I did just accidentally delete that picture, and that was because it was still highlighted and I tried to insert something over it. So make sure that when you're adding a new element that you aren't highlighted over that. So we want to go down here. You can see my cursor is down on this bottom line. then I want to add that horizontal line. So you can undo and redo when you do things like that. Don't feel like you lost where you were. It's easy to get back using those undo or redo buttons. You can add that hairline in. This last one over here, this is special characters. If you have registered trademarks or you need to add any sort of accents onto your characters, you can do this without having to know the HTML styling to add in those special characters in. The bottom four are probably some of the most important. The styles, this gives you some ability to add some specific styles in. Probably will never use the styling. Really recommend most likely leaving all of those kind of off to the side and not using those. However, this area where it currently says normal is most important. So what we've done is we have gone ahead and we have designed some headers for you and headings that allow you not to have to set what those look like, and you're able to go in and just say, I want this to be an H2 or an H3 or an H4. And what that means is when you tag a content with via heading 2, it's going to make it look like a specific thing in the front end of the site. So let's kind of show you what that would look like. So we've got heading, I'll just show you a heading 3 and a heading 4 because I can easily show you what a heading 1 is. So we've got heading 3 and we've got heading 4. Check live. You can see here at the bottom, I'll go over this again, but there's a live box, and that just means that that page is active, it's live, it's existing, it's on the front end of the site. So I'm just going to click Save. You'll see I didn't click Save and Closed. Save allows you to keep your page open. You did save it, and then we can go ahead and take a look at what that page looks like on the front end. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to go to Test Content. And I'm going to see, woo, this page looks beautiful. But you can see I've got that heading 3 here and that heading 4 here. So I didn't have to style that blue or make it larger or set the font. It automatically was matching the stylings on the site, and everything is good, kind of already preset. Your H2 styling is what this test content up here looks like. So it's probably something that you're not going to use very often because it's a very bold styling. We would recommend that you kind of start further down with the H3 and H4s. Does it save? Yes. Someone just had a question that if they're making changes in the beta environment, does it save? Yes, it does, until we go live. So what we're going to have happen is everything that will be right before we launch the website, everything that's in the beta environment will be pushed live. So once you get the okay from headquarters to edit your content, you are free to put in as much as you want and prep you as much you want to do, edit your content, add your pictures, add some more events. You can add all your content into that beta environment, and then what you can do is that will allow you, we'll push all of that live, and then once you're live, the headquarters will provide you what that your new URL is, which is going to be wi.asid.org, and you can add all of your content on the live environment from then forward. So after launch, adding content to beta will not get copied over to live, but once you're, but until then, yes, it will.
And one thing that you may have just seen Kat do is that she took the link and she put it into a different tab. That is not something that you would have to do. She did that for the sake of time, because we're trying to get through a lot here. But if she did the save and close, she would go back to the browse pages, and on the browse pages you can do edit page, you can do things, and we'll show that in a second. But if you just straight click on the link that is there, it will automatically take you to that page to show you what it looks like live.
Thank you, Joseph. Yes, definitely. So those are those format buttons that you can use to kind of add the content in on your site. The last 3, we really want you to use those H tags. They are great ways to build out your pages and make them look really beautiful and have your headings and have your headers in there without much effort. So you can go and you can add an H3 tag the same as you would add a bold to it. So it gives you that ability to have some diverse, beautiful pages without having to do any sort of styling. The 3 buttons that to the right of the format are size, change the size, change the color of the text, and change the highlight. we are giving you the ability to take all of the beautiful styles that have been set up on your site and override them. So if you really want to highlight text and make it yellow, you can. We just really don't recommend it. So, you know, try to use the styles that are there. There shouldn't be any reason why you need to override those styles. But since sometimes things come up, you do have the flexibility to kind of do those changes.
And going back quickly to the heading functions, with heading 3 and 4, I suggest starting there. The heading that you see at the top of the page that's always going to be on your header content, that's right now is test content, that is actually header 2. Mm-hmm. So you don't want to have, like, if you had test content and then right under that you had a header 2, it would be 2 lines straight like that. So that's why one of the reasons why it's important to, when you make a change and when you look at your header, then look at what it looks like on the live side as well. But it's just important to think about with the headers that you might want to start on header 3 sometimes.
Perfect. So that's kind of that's the WYSIWYG, and what I'm going to say is that seems, I'm sure to you, like a ton of information to learn, but this WYSIWYG is throughout the entire system. You've already seen it in some of the content blocks. It's going to be throughout all of the other modules. So once you learn it in one place, you learn it across the entire board. So it is it's across the entire site.
Yes, and one question that just came in, if you're not going to the live site. So somebody mentioned that they don't see a login feature, and there is still that. In the top right-hand corner right now, you will see Manage My Membership. That Manage My Membership is actually a login site. Whenever you log in there, it will not be live now, but it will eventually go live. It will be a landing page where people will be able to download, to view a member directory. They'll be able to pay their dues like they can now. It will be one central location. We will also push a lot of content to that landing page. We will automatically show when their membership expires. That's where they'll be able to update their Find a Pro section and everything like that. So that will all be in one central location. So if you click Manage My Membership, whether you're on a chapter site or whether you're on the headquarters site, it's still all going to go into the same login functionality. So that will all still be there and still active. And there will still be some pages that you can we can create on the headquarters site that are going to be behind that firewall. But the main thing is that it's going to be much easier for members to see everything in one section. They'll be able to view their everything pretty much about the lifespan of their membership on that section.
Great. So that's the content pages. We had already a little briefly gone over that browse page again that Joseph was mentioning. You save and close, then you can kind of find your page and click to view it on the front end of the site. So that's a pages module. I'm going to move on just so we can get into some of the other different areas that are on your site. The next place is Board of Directors. The rest of the modules are going to go much faster through because they all kind of follow the same format. When I go to Board of Directors, I'm going to start on the Browse Board of Directors. For Wisconsin, I'm going to show everyone that has all of the different board of directors that have currently been added. You can see on this one just a slight change from somewhere else in the site, but they've got the 4 arrows. Again, you can drag and drop the order of the items on the site so you can move them around. And you can see it's just having a little bit of difficulty with the GoToMeeting kind of moving those around, but you can drag and drop the order of those items so you can move them to be in the correct order that you're looking for. You also then can either view them so you can see what does that look like on the front end, or click Edit. When you click Edit, you have the ability to see the first and last name, or when you're adding someone, you add their first name, their last name. You can put
in the last name, that's where you can put their appellations as well. I know it doesn't say that there, but just add it on to the end of their last name.
Yep. And then you have the title, email, which are optional fields. If they happen to have a Twitter username and you want to link over to their Twitter account, you can do that as well. And then you have the bio. It's an optional area. So if you don't have a bio for one of your board of directors, that's okay. You don't have to use it. We're not going to create a page unique for that person unless you put in a bio. The last thing that you have is a photo. And you will see that the photo is required. The way that we've styled the page is so that there are photos for your board of directors. And let's go over and see what that board of directors page looks like. So I'm going to come over to board of directors, and you can see everyone's kind of in here using the styles. As we migrated your content over, we did not have the original files. All we had were the files that were already edited for your current website. So some of those just didn't come over as well as some of the others. So this is an area that we would recommend that you guys go back and you find the original photos, and then we crop those versions to make sure that we're getting good headshots of your board of directors using the new format for the photos in this more square instead of vertically horizontal kind of picture.
Yes, and as you can see here, as you mentioned, so with the photos and with that being required, some people did not have photos on the front end of their sites. We have created just a block, like just mock gray, just nothing on it photo that we have put in for some people. We will push that down to all chapters as well. It will be included, and you'll be able to choose from it. So we'll have that available for you as well if you do not have photos available.
All right. So that is the ability. There's also the ability to add an alternate photo. So that means that when the way that the alternate photo is set up is that when you hover your cursor over the initial picture, a second picture can show up. So you can have a black and white versus color, or you can have a serious versus smiling. There's a lot of different things that you can do there. It just gives you a little flexibility if you want to add a nice kind of extra feature to the site. It's not required, but it gives you a little bit of kind of extra breathing room there.
And we actually did that on the headquarters end. We did a fun, you'll see once our site is live, that we have one serious headshot, and then we have one where we allow people to show their personality, and it's kind of fun.
Edit this one or save this one. Again, the save button's in the bottom right-hand corner. Since I'm not going to save it and I want to go back, one thing that, just a little tip to share with you, at the very top you'll see what we traditionally in the web world call breadcrumbs, but it just shows you the links of how you got to this page. And if I click Browse Board of Directors, it's just going to take me back to the previous page. So you can kind of see the different items that are in here and have the ability to kind of go back so you can continue to add new ones. Maybe you didn't need to change that one. Just as a nice tool to kind of move backwards. So that is the Board of Directors module that we have in. The next place that we're going to talk about is the Events module. I know a lot of you have a lot of great events out there. Let's take a look at what that events page looks like. So when you look at the events page, you'll see at the very top we have some featured events. Both you and headquarters have the ability to push some featured events down to your site. So if there's new really great sites that you want to, events that are big and you really want to call out to your members, you can have those events tagged to move onto your homepage, and then you can also have them tagged to be up here at the top of your site. You can have up to 6 featured events at any one time. If you have more tagged than featured than 6, then it's just going to show the most recent 6 events. So if you have some, most upcoming 6 events first, and then as those events pass, new events will push up into the featured section. And then you kind of will come down into the all events here. You can see you can filter by zip code, or you can filter by national, chapter, or all. So this is any of the national events, any of the chapter events, or all, which will show you a combination of the two. And it defaults to show chapter first. You can also see in here, you see we have this default teaser image. We are still working on getting you guys some options for your teaser images to kind of put those in there as we were migrating content over for you. If there was an image that we could try to use, we did try to put that in place. And so we are working on getting you some options to use for your teaser images. But all your events should have an image where possible to pull in. And then as you click into the event, you'll see that there's a permalink page that kind of shows you some different details about the event. And we'll get into how you populate all of this content here in just a second. So in the back end of the site, you can browse events, same as with the board of directors. It will show you all the events that have been added. You have the ability to copy an event. So let's say you're adding a board meeting that you add 10 board meetings throughout the year. You can add it once, copy it, and then just edit the date and time and save it, so you don't have to keep repopulating all that same content multiple times. And you can also edit it. So that gives you kind of the ability to go in. If you added one, you need to come back and add more details now that you know where the event is located, or if the time changed, you can edit. And again, that delete button at the end. If you were to, I'm going to click edit, the edit and the add button do the exact same thing. So when you edit an event, you'll see you have your event title. And let's look at what this specific event here looks like in the front end. So give me just a second. Let's click on the Milwaukee Fundraiser Drive. So you can see we have the title, the teaser text. There is no teaser text. This field will be removed, so you don't even have to worry about it because that content is not populating on the site. You have your description, which is optional. That gives you the ability to add some different content. I know a lot of you in your your current websites were putting PDFs in as your descriptions instead of adding that content. We would really recommend in those cases just taking the few minutes to copy that PDF or original file out, taking that content and putting it into the description instead of uploading the PDF, because you're not gaining any of the search engine optimization that you could be from having that content actually on your site. In a PDF, Google or Yahoo or Bing, any of the search engines, they aren't able to work out what content's in that PDF. All they're seeing is that it's a picture, and they're not getting the words and the great content that you have. So it's always good to, if you can, put that content onto your site in text instead of in PDF or image options. You can then have the link URL and link copy. So if you were registering, this is where you would put your register URL, and then your link copy would say register today or sign up today. Maybe it's free and you put sign up today, so then you're going to put that information in there. The lead image, this is where you can insert an image. Again, this image that was inserted here was not the right specs for it, and that's why it's not pulling in. It's a very kind of vertically tall picture instead of a more horizontal wide picture. So again, this is another spec that we'll get over to you guys so that you guys have the optimal dimensions for uploading your images. You can set a member price and non-member price, so that just sets in what your different pricing is. Event dates and times, so that gives you the ability to add what date your event is occurring on. You click in here, it gives you a calendar tool that you can click through the calendar to set your date. You can also click up at the top to go through your years and your months to then get to where you want to do to add your date. Plus and minus buttons here. Clicking the plus button will go ahead and that will allow you to add multiple dates. Maybe you have a fundraiser that happens every month, and you don't want to add that calendar event 10 times. You just want to add the different dates that it occurs to have it populate multiple times, but it doesn't have to, you don't have to add 10 different calendar events. You can add your different plus buttons. Minus takes them away.
This is terrific for board meetings. If you have the board meetings monthly, and you have it, on the 10th, and you have it every month, it's at the same location. It's very easy to do that rather than going in and adding all of your board of director meetings for the entire year.
All right, and then you get into the times. So you do have to have a start time for your event. And that's just a required field, but other than that, you don't have to add your end time. And then you can also potentially, what if you have an event that the start and end time just date doesn't work? A lot of times, maybe it's a repeating event. It's every Sunday at noon, or it's maybe it's the third Tuesday of the month. You can actually overwrite that show date time as, and you can populate text in here. And what that will do is, instead of showing I know a lot of you have maybe done like from 12 a.m. to 12 a.m. for your times. You can overwrite that and just say all-day event. And you can have that words there that kind of help make it easier for your user to understand when this event is actually occurring. Last thing that's in there is the location, name, and address, city, and state. So the name of your location is required, so you do have to at least have a name, but other than that, the address is optional. We do recommend if you have an address, put it in there with the zip code, because we are using those addresses to do the search functionality on the front end where the user can enter their zip code to find events that are near them, and that same functionality with your chapter events is being used on the headquarters website, so we're actually going to be pulling all of your events from the chapter sites onto the headquarters site so that we can hopefully get a much broader audience for your events and get more people to come to them and register and sign up. So having that zip code in there is the tool that will allow the user to enter their zip code to find their event that's in, if they live in Wisconsin and they have the same zip code, that'll pull this event in there for them. So it's a great tool to use if you have a location for your event. Make sure you're putting that address in there. The bottom three options on this one are featured, show on homepage, and active. The active, inactive is same as everything that we've talked about earlier. Maybe you're just not ready to show this one to the public. You're going to uncheck that active box. Featured, this is the checkbox that you select to have that event show up at the top of the browse page. So that's what's going to show up, to make this event show up under the featured events. The last one is the show on homepage. This checkbox is what allows you think that this event is really important. You want to show it on your homepage. So most likely maybe those board meetings aren't the ones that you're going to show on your homepage, but you have a fundraiser coming up, or you have a membership event that you really want to get your members to. Those are the events that you want to make sure that if they only go to your homepage and they don't go to the event browse page, they still see that event.
And a few important things here. One is that you no longer have to add the national events to your chapter like you see scales on all the chapter pages. We can push that down, but then it works vice versa. Your events, as Kat just mentioned, will be pushed up to the national site. So when you come to headquarters site, you'll see that there'll be a mark of a national event or versus a chapter event. Much like when you come to this, when you come to the events page first, you see that the chapter page, the chapter events are automatically clicked, and that's the ones you default to. And then you could go to national or all. Will be defaulted to all on the national, so you'll be able to see the chapter and the headquarters events at the same time, and you will not have to add it to ours. We won't have to go and add your events to our site, and vice versa. This makes it a lot easier, and that's why we all came onto the same platform, and why all of our web addresses and email addresses are the same now, because we all are on the same platform, so we can push and pull information, which is why we now have what will be wi.asid.org. And one of the questions that came in was, will the old sites be redirected? Yes, the old sites will be redirected, so we'll redirect your link. So if your old site was texasasid.org, we'll redirect it so that it goes to the new site.
All right, great. So the last place that we have last couple of modules to get through. So that's your events. Once you add one event, you can kind of see you're getting the flow. It's very intuitive. Once you really get in here and you start clicking around, you'll see that everything is following the same format. You're adding your titles, you're adding your descriptions, you're using that WYSIWYG, you're kind of following the structure to insert your images. Everything's kind of following along that same pattern. We're going to get to the news next. So the news is news, blog, same kind of functionality, same place. It's places to add articles, information, maybe letters from the president, annual meeting reviews, kind of some information that you want to populate on your site. Sometimes it's going to be new research information that you guys found, kind of some different content that you want to kind of add into your site. So when you come in and you go to the news section, you'll see that it's populated with different news articles. Again, these have teaser images, and we will provide you the specs for the news items, and again, we'll also help provide you some placeholders for some of those. And you can see there's some different categories that you can add, and each chapter can have their own unique categories for the news articles. So under the news, you would see that there is a browse categories and add categories. You can browse your categories and you can add a new category in, and that just allows you to tag them with the different categories with different functionality, and you can kind of see how many posts you have in each category. You can't delete a category once it has posts in it, but that, just so you don't delete those posts. posts. And then as you come in, you can browse your posts and you can add a new post. I'm not going to spend too much time going through adding a new post. Same thing, you add your title, you add your image, you add your body description, what that article is, you tag the categories, and you add that meta title and description. Meta title and description, we haven't gone too much into talking about the meta title and description yet. Those are great things for SEO that you should be adding into your pages. We'll talk more about SEO next week in our next meeting, so definitely make sure you join us for that. Last thing on news, which is a great feature, is the publish on date. So this allows you to set when that date was published. So you can either backdate something or you can future date something. So say you want to make it active, you want to add that news post today, but you don't want it to show up on your website until next Thursday. You can go ahead, set that date, set that time to publish, and it's going to automatically publish that for you. You don't have to remember to come in and set it. So it'll automatically set everything for you. Last two things on this one, active, inactive, same as across the site, and then the show up on homepage. This is the same button that allows you to show the news article on your homepage, same as the events, and those are what are showing up on that homepage for you. Down at the bottom, you can see if it doesn't have an image, but we're not pulling it through for you. Those placeholders aren't pulling through on the home page. So you can add in your different news items, and the news items are also getting pushed down from headquarters as well. So as headquarters adds news that they feel is really relevant for all members to see and would really benefit you for having it on your site, they're going to push that down automatically, so you don't have to worry about adding that research onto your site. They're taking care of pushing that for you as well.
And if you want to add it to your newsletters, you don't have to add it to your site, so you have the URL, and or you don't have to link. It would just make it very easy from that point.
All right. That's the news module. I'm going to move on real fast into our last module, and that is the awards and competitions. So awards and competitions, I know, is something that not all of the chapters are doing, but some of you, a good amount of you are. And what the awards and competitions allows you to do is it allows you to add seasons, categories, and then winners within that event, and it'll automatically be styled for you so that you don't have to style those content pages like you currently are with all of that content. So you have a 2014 season, you then have your category, then you can click in to see your event, and then you can click in to see all of the different, the winner of that event, and you can add a gallery of pictures for that event. So for Wisconsin, we have not finished adding all of the content for your awards in yet, so don't worry that they're not all here yet. That's one of the pieces of content that we're still finishing moving over, but you do have the ability to add all of the different awards in. In the back end, there's different places that you're doing it. First thing you're doing is you're adding your season. So you can browse existing seasons, or you can come in and you can add a new season. So you can see the 2014 award winners season is active, but maybe you add the 2017 award winners. So you click Add Season, you enter the title, you check active, and public just means that it's facing forward. So the public is seeing that, so you just want to make sure you have that public and active checkbox set. And then so you've got your season added. The next thing that you're going to do is you're going to add those categories. So you can see on the last one we had platinum as a category, and that just allows you to categorize all the different winners, and each of you have kind of different structures for your award. So we tried to build something that was really flexible for everyone, that would fit within kind of all of your different awards, so you can add in, but you can kind of make it unique to how you run your programs. So you can click Add, and then you add the name, the title of your award category. So then you go ahead and you add that title in there. And then the last thing is the biggest one, which is you add the winner. So what's the title of the winner? What season was it? These are drop downs that will select the season that you had already added and the category you had already added, which is why it's important to do those steps first. You can add the project name, the designers, the firm, the website of the firm, and these are all optional, so if you don't have that information, it's okay to leave it blank. The teaser image, and that's the image that's showing up right in here. And then you can active, inactive, and you click Save. Once you've added that, let's browse those award winners. and you can see you have this button over to the right where you can view the photos, and this is where you add that gallery of images. So you can see you've got the 4 images, you've got the drag and drop to order them, you can add the plus button to add a new title and a new image right in here to add multiple different items for your gallery.
Can you go back to the adding a winner really quick?
Sure.
So one of the things that we did here on the add a winner was that we tried to make this as flexible as possible. The reason why we have title there, so let's say we pick season 2017, category, let's say it's residential. Some people had their titles as they have 3 in the same category and they have 2 award of merits and 1 winner. You can add that as a title. Some people had bronze, silver, and gold. That you could add that as a title. Some people just had 1 winner in that category. You could just add the title just as winner. So there's a lot of different ways you can do that and a lot of flexibility. I've been working with a lot of the, migrating a lot of different chapters that have a ton of different awards, and the flexibility that we have there has made life a lot easier. The one thing that I will add is that, in some of them, you may see that there's a designer name that does not have the appellation or something like that. We pulled this all over from the current site, so if there is something that is inaccurate or we wanted to go back and fact check all of them in the database, but we're migrating 47 sites, and there's about, some of them have as many as 60 award winners, so that would have not allowed us enough time to do it. But once you get into the awards, and the good thing is that once you add one to this section, when you add a new season, you add 2017, you just have to add 1 more season. You just add 2017, and then you still have all the categories and everything already in there. You just add a new season, and then you just start adding in all the winners. This is a huge feature. We actually customized this just for ASID. This was something that Orasys had not yet worked with, so it's a new platform that we did just because we know the emphasis that a lot of chapters have on their awards. We want an easy way to display the imagery and the really cool projects that a lot of our members are doing.
Great. There is one more module that we didn't get into, and that is the forms. I'm just going to give it a really quick, and we will talk a little bit more about this. You can have web forms, and for most of the sites, the Contact Us is set up as a web form. That gives you the ability to add a form and manage the fields that are underneath of it. When you add the form, it follows a lot of the same structure. You add the name, you add the URL, what you want your submit text to be. You have some options of whether it's active, and there's a few other options in here of how you can kind of customize your form for you. You can add some content before the form, add some more content after the form, add your thank you page. So after a user submits, what does that thank you page say? You can add some additional scripts and content. If any of you are running any major SEO campaigns or marketing campaigns, that's where these would come into play. There's a few user email and administrator email notifications. This is to send the email and notice that you got their form submission, and also to send someone at your organization a notice that someone submitted something. And again, those meta tags. We'll get a little bit more into the forms next time, but just wanted to give you the idea. There are web forms on here. You can use these for a lot of different options. It's actually a great tool if you need to collect information from your members, and it just allows you to really create and build forms. And then you can add the field. So you can click the plus button over on this side, set the name of your field, maybe it's email address, is it required or not required, and you can select the type, and that just helps with the validation, so we can make sure that someone's putting in. We might not be able to tell if it's a valid email, but we'll be able to tell that it's an @, a domain name, and a dot something, so we can make sure that it's at least following the correct structure. And then you can also see under that forms module, when you browse the forms, you can see the submissions and actually unresolved submissions. So you can see, let's look at it on the front end here. So you can see, there aren't any fields. Let's just add that one field back in. But when you add that field in, you can go ahead and you add the name, and let's click Save. Just give it a quick refresh here. So I've got my name field in here. I'm going to add my name right in here, and I'm going to click Submit. and it's, thank you for submitting, and it takes you over, and then let's go back to that browse screen where we're seeing now there's one submission. So if I browse that submission, I can view the information that that user set in, and I can also mark it as resolved. You don't have to use that resolved, unresolved feature, but it is good if you have multiple people responding to those contact us forms or whatever you have the submissions in your site for. You can kind of mark those as resolved to make sure that you guys are both seeing, yeah, I responded to this person, they've been taken care of. And then you can also download all of that information into a CSV that allows you to extract that from the site. Maybe you collected their name, their email, their phone number, and you want to push that into ability to submit send an email campaign out to them, or different marketing tools that you may be doing, so you can select your form and then your submission dates and generate a CSV with all the content that you submitted or collected from them. So that is the website. Thank you guys for staying on a little bit longer. We're going to try to answer a few of the questions that have come in. So fire away.
Just a few things to kind of wrap this up. One is, know that we are still in development. We're still pulling content. We're actually still making changes to some of the minute details. There might still be a bug or two that pops up here and there because we are not live. Like, for example, when somebody said that some of the heads are cut off in board of directors, we see all that. Like, we understand some of that comes from us not having the original images, and then other things are just little bugs that we might find here and there. But we try to make it as updated as possible for this call. We are working on the back end day and night to migrate all of the information from the old sites over. Or we are shooting to have all of that done by Monday, end of day. That's our goal, but some there might just be that have a lot of content, might just take a little bit longer, but we will reach out as soon as we're done with your site's content, so you can go in and start updating it. But if you run into a bug or two here, just know that we're working through it on the headquarters end. We're still shooting for that February 14th launch date, and we are still on target for that. One thing that you'll find is that we'll start beta testing soon, and that's once we have all the content in, we've worked out all the bugs, and then we're going to go in and just try to break the site essentially from the front end, especially once it's synced with associations anywhere. We're going to try to go in, try to test things, try to test renewing membership, things like that. So we're still in that process, but I will keep everybody posted throughout. So few of the questions. One of the questions is, will you have parameters? Yes, we will get. We'll get suggested size for all the different areas. Suggested pixel size for all the areas, what looks best, what areas are still acceptable, that might still look good, and then some that you may not want to do. For example, some areas you want to go more horizontal than vertical. We'll get that information to you. Is there anything else?
There's been a number of questions about chapters who sell things on their websites. Since we don't, the chapter website functionality doesn't have a direct interface for selling things. So if you are currently selling templates or something else, we would have the ability, obviously, to link the site up to whatever site or method you were using before. Yes. But I think we do have some suggestions that in terms of how to do that. So if your chapter is currently selling something, like some kind of product or something like that, if you can make sure to email us and just go ahead and send that email to chapters with an S, chapters@asid.org, we'll make sure to send that on to Catherine's team and to the communications team so that we can look at that. So the short answer is we will find a way to make it happen, but just recognize our site doesn't do that automatically. So this also relates to, I know there was this question here about adding a donate button. So while our site doesn't house the functionality to say, take a donation and send that directly to your bank account, your chapter bank account, if you were going through another site, we could find a way to link that up to your site. So hopefully people understand the distinction.
Is there any other that?
I think there's just a question about in terms of for putting in locations in the event module of the website. Does it save locations, or will people just need to? So people will need to type that each time. So I recommend that you keep a Word document or something of if you have standard locations. So when going through this, you can cut and paste it very easily. Or if your web browser allows the autofill function, make sure that you go in your settings under Google Chrome or Mozilla Firefox or so on and put on there enable the autofill feature to help you with stuff like that. But the CMS, the content management system of the website, does not do that on its own.
Right, and I would definitely suggest having that autofill. As you could see when Kat was going through and she was putting some things in, she was getting that autofill for a lot of things because she's been adding so many things to the back end of her website from hers. I know I've been doing it as I've been migrating a lot of our sites using that autofill function. It's a great tool, and you definitely want to use it.
All right, so we are going to go ahead and end the recording.